You're welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. President Bola Tinubu this week added his voice call to the growing calls for the creation of a state-controlled police force, which will be empowered to deal with the issue of crime and law enforcement at that level. According to the president, the necessity of a state police has almost assumed the status of life and death, even as his government continues to grapple with unprecedented levels of insecurity. Tinubu said a constitutional amendment has become imperative to secure forests from bandits and protect children from fear. For more on issues arising from this call, we are now being joined by Senator Ayo Arise, a former federal legislator, and the focus shall be on the likely reasons behind the growing agitation, how its potential actualization can be navigated through the National Assembly, given the barrage of grey areas that have attended the subject matter, and how another layer of restructured police force can impact governance and the prevalence of insecurity at the state and grassroots levels. Good morning, distinguished Senator. Good to have you join us on the morning show.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
It's nice to be back here. Good morning, Anne.
Good morning.
How are you people doing in Lagos?
We're doing very well.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you back,
yes,
sir. All right. Okay, so let's talk about
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Let's talk about the important subject of state police, the creation of state police, the agitation practically in every part of Nigeria for state police, and the interest of President Bola Tinubu in having, not just having the state police, but in urging members of the National Assembly, to tinker with the Constitution so as to allow for the creation of state police. What are your own thoughts, given that you were a senator, and I'm sure that this issue will have come up one way or the other at the time that you were there. But now that we have a president who is very much interested in the creation of state police, what do you think of this agitation, from everywhere? And what constitutional orders do you think that the president and the National Assembly will have to navigate to make this a reality?
Well, thank you very much. I have to once again give kudos to our president, who is very much on top of the game of leadership in this country. As far back as the year 2000, maybe barely after a year of becoming governor of Lagos State, the president had been on the topic state policing. So much could have been responsible for that. First, I've been an American-trained person. It's normal that you see local county police, you see state police. As a matter of fact, the county police, that is even city police, were more effective in terms of curbing crimes in the U.S. The state police, particularly the state of Georgia where I live, essentially they are more into manning the highways and generating revenue for those people who would always speed in their cars, generating revenue for the state. But the city police actually is able to go within the city and patrol, move, in such a way that with a call, of course, the 911 have been very popular in the States. Immediately there is a call, you will see that the police will be in your residence within 5 minutes. And that can only be possible if they are very close to the areas of operation. For the interests of our country, apart from all these security challenges that we've been facing, President Tinubu had always seen the merit in state policing and local policing, which is actually the best way that we can deter criminals or cells of criminals from developing and growing within our communities without even knowing it. When a strange person comes into any community, the local police, they are easily able to identify there's a strange situation at hand, and they will put intelligence to work, more investigation, and before they're able to do much damage, because they are local, they know everybody, like they relate to everyone like a family. And so that has been one of the major attractions for state and local policing. Now, in terms of the National Assembly, I am sure you know that the president is a very strategic person in his thinking. And in many of the policies that he's been able to implement, those things that we thought were almost very difficult, to achieve in the National Assembly, he's been able to achieve them. I do not see any problem with the National Assembly. I only would encourage that a lot of education about the pros and cons of state police should be actually, in terms of marketing, to those who were initially opposed to it. And I said initially because in 2010, when we tried to introduce state police into the constitutional amendment, we had opposition, and so it didn't fly. But I believe now, without much jolting, people have seen the benefit of having security, because life is being threatened. Communities are being, almost annihilated, particularly the one that happened in Kwara lately. And of course, when you see attacks everywhere, nobody wants to lose his life. And so whatever the president can do, which I believe this is one of the very good strategies to ensure that security of lives and properties in Nigeria are kind of guaranteed. And so to the National Assembly, the only amendment is the Section 214, which can be done in one or two ways. First, by moving policing to the concurrent list, that will resolve the problem. The federal can have their police, and the state will have their police. And it's very key that people understand that the fact that you have state police does not completely erase the federal police. I believe that had been a major problem with some of our leaders in the police, because they couldn't understand how they can easily give up all this enormous power, which invariably at the end of the day amounts to nothing, because if the job is not being done, we're all, in some sort of risk. And so once Section 214 is amended, it will now go to the states, for ratification. Of course, as you all know, we need two-thirds majority in the two houses for this to happen. And I believe with the state, even some legislators in some areas are finding it difficult to travel home easily. So because of that, nobody will need too much of pushing before they buy into this idea. So I believe this will fly, and I think it's of course, there will still be public hearing, and anybody that has any reason to believe that it's not good for the country, I should bring and let us debate it, and we'll see how this country can move forward in a very short period. Now, in terms of the security, in terms of the fear of whether the state government will use the state police to attack or intimidate opposition, I believe the same thing, the same powers that the state police will have is what the federal police has now. And so, because we've been able to use the judiciary and a number of checks and balances to ensure that abuse, is limited. It might not be totally eliminated, but there will be like a suggestion of putting maybe people from the judiciary, people from maybe teaching services, some civilians that will constitute a commission that will oversee exactly the activities of the police within the state. And of course, we have all these human rights groups now. They're everywhere, and they can look at the rights of every individual. And of course, we don't have to go far. Abuses happened in advanced countries as well. And they have developed body cameras to ensure that whatever you do, if you go to anybody's house, everything is recorded. If you try to abuse a person, even from the interrogation room, some of this CCTV and all that can be put in there to ensure that the state police do not abuse the powers, or they don't dance to the tune of just the governor. And don't forget, a governor has only 3 years. And I believe his activities or her activities, whatever gender the governor happens to be, can be called to question after leaving office. And the things that you do in the office, as if they're criminal, you still have to answer to them. I mean, look at a number of cases at the FCC, people that have embezzled money carelessly, without covering. So there are ways, there are checks and balances, and there are ways this thing can be organized in such a way that everybody's interest, is looked after. But I think you might have some questions, so let me pause here.
Yes, thank you, Senator Arisha. Thank you very much for that detailed response. Since you've indicated that, as of now, it's more or less just up to the National Assembly to see this through, what would you say is the earliest time that you think we might see state police actually deployed across states? And then my second question is, we know that the federal government recently trained about 7,000 forest guards, just bringing them up to speed with the latest tactics. Is there a sense that state police will be well equipped and well trained to deal with terrorists, because some of them have very sophisticated, advanced weapons? Can the state police meet up to that requirement to actually defeat them?
Well, I believe there can be development when we have security and people feel safe. They will be able to think of developing their localities and their communities. To your first question as to the timing, I believe everything that the president has sent to the National Assembly has been attended to in a very timely fashion, and that is what the president enjoys when the ruling party also controls the legislature. And any way you look at it, this president is sitting pretty to discuss with the National Assembly his programs, his policies, and this is in the best interest of the country. So I believe security cannot wait another month or another year. I believe once the bill lands on the table of the clerk, I believe the Senate president will go into action, and maybe some committees will have discussions. These things will not be an automatic thing, because when you look at it, apart from the fact that at the end of the day, it's going to ensure that many of these youths are off the street, because a substantial number of them will be able to find jobs within their state police setup. And when you now look at it, that, okay, how quickly can we have the state police functioning? It's going to take maybe months, but I believe with the commitment of Mr. President and the fact that he wants to see this thing done, we can look at some months, because first, you are going to kit all these people, you will train them, So that you send them to police colleges, or you set up some in the states, and you have them trained, you have them kitted. Then, of course, you now have to define the relationship between the federal police and the state police. And of course, in the Constitution, and those who have been practicing it, we know that cross-border crimes will be under the federal. Wire fraud, in case if you rob a bank, that will be a federal crime, you know. But things like as gruesome as murder is a state crime. So some of these items will still have to be, you know, digested, and the training part is very key. And so I believe that all these people, even the Amotekons, the forest guys and all that, many of them will constitute a tangible and experienced part of the state police system. Some of this will no longer be necessary. Some of these ad hoc security agencies, once you have state police that can take care of the security in terms of intelligence and all that. So there are so many areas of the police that we cannot say that this thing is going to start next month. If the National Assembly moves very fast, they can pass this within weeks, and it will now go to the states, you know, because you must have at least 24 of the 36 states, you know, saying, okay, we're all right with it. But I cannot see that as a problem, because we already have, APC already has over 31 governors. So now selling the idea to their to their state assemblies should not be a difficult thing. And we do not anticipate any problem, because this is a problem of Nigerians. It's not a problem of the president alone. It's a problem for everybody. So I think the fastest that is possible will be when we can achieve this. I do not think that we'll have state police on the roadside operating within 30 days. No, that would be very difficult. But of course, I'm sure the president has planned many of these things, and he has people working with him that can ensure that this thing happens in a very short time.
All right, Senator Abi,
is there anything that?
You are quite detailed, particularly in situating the place of section. You're welcome, sir. Section 214 of the Constitution, and then the need for training and kitting them. But then, if we are able to, the National Assembly is able to move past Section 214 ultimately, and then state police becomes a concurrent, is now on the concurrent list, and states can have their police formations. Two important issues will arise. First will be the issue of funding. How will they be funded? I doubt if any state has made provisions for additional police force of their own in this year's budget. So even if the National Assembly expedite action, how will they be funded? How will states who are not as buoyant as Lagos, as Rivers, as Delta, etc., how will they deal with the issue of state police that they will have to fund? And then in terms of the number of people that will be employed, will that be at the discretion of the states, given the reality of their finances? And also you mentioned the ad hoc arrangements, the Amotekun, the Ebibiagu. If those the people in those ad hoc formations have to be co-opted into the state police, what does that say about the fact that those ad hoc formations did not perform satisfactorily? And given the fact that those ones, like Hamoteko, for example, some of who probably rely on, traditional jazz, betu, and co., is that the sort of a thing that we will now be seeing in state police, when it comes to how they will be run in some states?
Steve, thank you very much. Let me first of all address the issue of funding. I did a few arithmetic. Let's say the average policemen that can handle a particular state. It's maybe anything between 10 to 15,000 policemen. And Lagos is a peculiar character. They have money and they can generate a lot of money, even from police activities. Now, every state will not have equal number of policemen. They will look at the challenges they are facing. I mean, if you look at a state like my state in Ekiti now, security challenges are fairly minimal. It's not as terrible as some other states. So we can look at it and say, these are the hotspots that we have. These are the areas where we need a certain number of men. And if you look at in terms of cost, yes, the federal government will have to give grants and subventions for takeoff. And thereafter, whichever way the government will do it is an urgent matter that the National Assembly must prepare to get money. Either, money through appropriation, whichever way we look at it, because it's important. What this insecurity is doing to our country is far greater than any amount of debt that we can incur, which is payable, as we continue to grow. So I think the federal government will help in terms of the takeoff grant, and the states too will look at how many policemen do I really need? What is the real population? I'm not talking of course, exaggerated numbers are no longer feasible with the number of electronic and with the name number going around and all that. So the real population that we have, how many people are below the age of, let's say, 12 or 14? How many are above 18? So all these things can be segmented, and you can come up with a reasonable number of policemen ratio to people. What the United Nations is looking for, per population, per policeman man. If you use that data, we are almost there, even at the federal level, apart from the substantial number that goes into ad hoc services. But for the population of around 270 million, I think the UN is looking at an average of something slightly under 500,000. So, and I believe Nigerian police is about 300 and something thousand now. Some of these people will have to be yielded, to the states, because the federal now, the best they will be able to do is to have zonal offices, but they will have field officers in most of the states. And so, because their own problem, if, for example, there is a breach of things like terrorism anywhere, that is still a concern for the federal government. They will still have to move in and support the local police to ensure that these things are put under control. So we look at it that there will still be marriage between the two while they sort themselves out, gradually. It's going to be costly for some states, but don't forget, like I said, the state police in a state like Georgia is on. Most of them are on the road, putting their speed readers, on. As soon as you go beyond the speed limit, they stop you. They write you a ticket, because even their promotion sometimes is based on the number of what kind of money they're able to generate for the state. It's not some of these things that we are not looking at. They will come into reality. And when a person commits an offense that is not really what to call a heinous, it's not a crime, it's not a heinous crime.
All right.
You find out some of them you pay, and you move on. So they'll be able to generate money by themselves as well.
Okay.
State. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Senator.
So you have a question? Yes.
No, well, not quite. We've run out of time, but just very quickly to achieve this in terms of the number of police officers that is required, what the United Nations actually recommends is about 300 police officers to a population of 100,000 people. And that means that you will need 300,000 police officers to 100 million people. At more than 200 million Nigerians, we will certainly need more than 600,000 police officers. We're barely, 300,000 plus in Nigeria, so there's still space for a lot more if we have to meet the recommendation. But of course, we want to thank you. Yeah, we want to thank you for your time with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed.